Welcome to the Essentially You podcast. Elina, honey, how are you doing today, girl?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
I am so excited to have you on the podcast because you have got an app that is game changing for women. The most game changing. Like, I am so excited. I have it myself. We're going to be talking about natural cycles. And I would love to start, Elina, talking about what was the defining moment, the impetus for you to say, you know what, I am going to change the course of how women address their reproductive health, like how we're able to set ourselves up for success when it comes to our menstrual cycle, when it comes to preventing pregnancy as a natural form of contraception.
Sure. So it started around like 10 years ago. I'm originally a particle physicist. So I was doing research trying to find the Higgs particle, which we did find in 2012, which led to the Nobel Prize in physics. And with that, I was like, okay, I can never top this experience in my life. So if I don't want to be a physicist, what would I like to do? At the same time, I'd been looking for an effective and easy to use non-hormonal contraceptive myself, because I'd been using the hormonal implant for about 10 years and it was time to switch it out. But I knew I wanted to get pregnant in a few years. I wanted to give my body a break from hormones before going into trying to become pregnant. So I started to read the research about contraception and how the menstrual cycle works and how the woman's body works. And I got more and more into it. And I realized that the body temperature changes throughout the menstrual cycle, something known for long and well researched, but I personally had no idea. And women used to do this by hand, but it wasn't very effective. So I thought, like, with my knowledge from particle physics, which is a lot about data and algorithms, I can create an algorithm that takes previous cycles into account and makes temperature data fail-safe, because I can take fluctuations into account and create an algorithm to use as a birth control method myself. I did so, but I quickly realized that this is actually a huge unmet need worldwide. And so after having discovered the Higgs particle, I was like, what should I do now? Then my husband, who's also a physicist, suggested, well, you've created this algorithm and there's so many women and couples that either want to prevent pregnancies naturally or plan a pregnancy and need help with that. So why don't we make it into an app and such that all couples can profit from this innovation?
Oh, that's incredible. I love this story so much, that you were able to, as a physicist, having this massive accomplishment of being on the team that led to this Nobel Prize. And then in your own curiosity for a solution for yourself, knowing that being on hormonal birth control, these synthetic hormones, obviously their job is to prevent pregnancy, but it takes a minute for the body to rebound, to recover from being on this type of synthetics. You knew that you got to give your body some time, but also you weren't necessarily ready to get pregnant right then and there. And so you were looking for a solution that really none of us have really had for pretty much ever. Without the use of hormonal birth control or the copper IUD, the Paragard, or maybe condoms. But we just didn't have some natural options that we could really own that felt good to us. And so here you are, not only creating this for yourself. I feel like that's where some of the most incredible discoveries come from, but then you were able to apply this with algorithm that you created to women around the world, which is just incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, it's also so fulfilling because I get the feedback from our users on a daily basis, and I read the app reviews, etc. And they really do talk about how natural cycles has been life-changing for them, because many of them have tried many different contraceptive methods before, but haven't really found something that suited them, and they feel quite relieved that they found something that works, but also they feel very empowered that they get to know their body, because natural cycles, compared to other birth control methods, it kind of teaches you about your body, and when you're fertile, when you're not fertile, and you can take decisions and avoid unprotected sex when you're fertile if you don't want to get pregnant. But other birth control methods, they rather change your body. So this way they are able to get to know their body instead of changing it.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Well, when I was growing up, I'll never forget, I come from a Catholic upbringing, and this is probably the case for a lot of different upbringings. This was just mine. And my grandmother, my little Catholic Mexican grandmother, was so clear on ensuring that we knew that you could get pregnant every single day of the week, every day of the month, right? And if someone sneezed on you, you could get pregnant. Like there was the fear of God in us that we could get. And I remember growing up with this myth. I thought this was true probably until I was in my mid to late 20s. I just had no idea. And my grandmother scared me enough to think that she must be right. And so that is not the case, as we know. And I love that. I think there's so many women, one, have no idea that their temperature increases right after ovulation. They don't realize that it's a very small window that we can actually get pregnant. And that if we're really tracking it, we've got a great algorithm, we can have a really great sense of not only when we're ovulating, which I call the main event, but also the end of our luteal phase when our period's coming as well. We just get to know so much about that and know about our body's physiology in the process as well, as you mentioned, which is such a big win. I don't know, did you have that experience where you told the same thing, that you could get pregnant every day of the month?
Maybe not in the same way growing up in Sweden, but still I feel like there wasn't enough education on how the body actually works. So I remember when I was a teenager, I was curious, and that was kind of like before internet was a big thing. So I went to the library and like borrowed a book about like women's bodies and the menstrual cycle and tried to understand myself, because I felt like there wasn't enough education in school around this topic, not in Sweden either.
No, not even in Sweden. No, it wasn't just here in the US. That's good to know. I've had full on episodes on the show about hormonal versus non-hormonal birth control, the different options that we have, the side effects and impact that hormonal birth control can have on a woman's body. But I would love for you to talk a little bit about kind of when you were looking at, the hormonal options and the implications around those, why you felt like not only was this an important substitute or important different option to have, why that you felt that it was a really important option to have outside of the more chemically induced birth control.
Well, personally, I struggled with the contraceptive pill when I was quite young. I tried to take the pill when I became sexually active, but it completely changed who I was. So I quite quickly broke up with my boyfriend. And then I didn't need the pill anymore, so I stopped taking it. And then I realized that it wasn't the boyfriend that was the problem. It was actually the pill. That was indeed when I was trying first to find an alternative method, and eventually ended up on the hormonal implant, which worked well for me for those 10 years. But in the end, then 10 years later, I was kind of in the same situation that I had been before when I couldn't take the pill, that I was like, okay, but now I need a different way of preventing pregnancy. Why isn't the solution out there? Because I knew that you ovulate once per cycle and you're fertile max 6 days, because sperm can survive up to 6 days in the body. So if you would just know when you ovulate, then you can work your way around it without having to change the body. So I was kind of like, 10 years later facing the same puzzle, but this time I had a PhD in particle physics and access to all the research, and I had much more experience and also the internet. So I was able to create a solution at that point.
And I would love to go into some of the most common misconceptions about natural cycles as well, just because I know some of the questions that are popping up of, how effective is it, when we're using it, not just perfect use, but just like everyday use. How does that relate to hormonal birth control, like the combination pill that you mentioned? Obviously, using the natural cycles won't prevent STDs. Would you just go through? I know people are thinking, well, gosh, this just sounds and feels too good to be true. I would just love for you to kind of just talk through what are some of the concerns that have been coming up for people, or what are some of the, kind of reassurances this is a great option?
Yes, definitely. So now, 10 years down the line of working with natural cycles, we have published 14 clinical studies to date. We've been the first digital product that has been cleared by the FDA and also CE marked in Europe as a digital contraception. So we're actually a medical device, and getting to becoming a medical device as very much because of all the research and the clinical studies we've done, many of them looking into how effective is this method as a birth control method. So natural cycles is 93% effective with typical use and 98% effective with perfect use. So what that means is that if you avoid unprotected sex on a red day when the app tells you you're fertile, then you're counted as like perfect use. And then 2 out of 100 women still get pregnant in a year. Because indeed, no contraceptive method is 100% effective. But if you just look at all natural cycles users, then it's 93% effective. So 7 out of 100 get pregnant in the year. So the most common reason why they get pregnant is because even though the app shows that it's a red fertile day, they might still have unprotected sex on that day. Also, our average user is around 30 years old, and you can also use natural cycles to plan a pregnancy. So we know many women that do get pregnant is actually because they are considering having a baby quite soon. So then they become less diligent on those red days. But you need to be 18 to use natural cycles. And indeed, like, it does not protect against STIs. So you need to be in a stable relationship. Otherwise, you should always wear a condom.
Good to know. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that was clear as well, that this is really just designed specifically to prevent pregnancy and to know when to get pregnant. I think one of the best ways to really, if anyone's ever who's listening to this right now and has ever tried to get pregnant or had even a slight little difficulty, or maybe it took you several months, yeah, I'll tell you, you get really like knowledgeable about your cycle and about ovulation and about your window, because you're working really hard to get pregnant. And I think having an app like this just really allows you, like we talked about earlier, that empowerment of knowing your body, knowing, when you're heading into that fertile window, looking out for the signs that kind of move you in that direction, tracking your temperature as well, kind of knowing if you've ovulated and moving into that luteal phase. I mean, all these things are so important to know our body, and not just for pregnancy. I think our menstrual cycle, it really is an indicator of so much that's going on in the body. And so as you track your cycle and you really get really familiar with your body, you can really kind of detect if something is off. I always feel like your menstrual cycle is such a great, just an indicator of what may be going on in the body. And the more that we understand it, the more that we know it, the more that we can really create vitality and energy and just really feel our best.
Completely agree.
Have you found that to be, obviously you have found that to be true, but is that also what you're hearing in terms of testimonials of just women reaching out of just like, wow, like it's giving me such a great insight on what is going on with my body, which I definitely, they probably didn't have that experience if they were on hormonal birth control.
Yes, we get so many amazing stories from our users, or our cyclers, as we call them. Many things, like, for instance, like their relationship has become better because, they don't have necessarily the same moodiness when they're not on hormonal contraception. And Natural Cycles now also has a partner app. So the partner can install a different version of the app and kind of see where their partner is at in their cycle, and also understand, like, maybe she's going through PMS right now, or what is happening in general. And also, one story we got from a user recently was that because we have reminders coming up for period coming up, but also like if your PMS is coming up, and she said that she was sitting on the couch crying, and then she got the notification on her phone that her PMS was about to come up, and she felt so relieved because then she understood why she was feeling how she was feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, our fluctuating hormones are so powerful, especially when they're working at full strength. And yeah, we can definitely feel that, that heading into our menstrual cycle, into our period, those hormone changes, when all of those hormones take a deep dive down. 100. I totally agree with that. The other thing I wanted to ask is specifically, I know you talked a little bit about how it worked, But I just want to talk about, I want to get really, really granular. And let's walk through the experience of even setting up natural cycles. So we go to the app store, we go and download it on, onto our phone, sign up, and we input some information in and kind of track from when our last cycle is. Like, when does it start to become pretty accurate for us? Is it pretty much immediate? Does it take a month to kind of gather information?
First of all, I would recommend to go to our website because there's just much more to read up about it. And we also have amazing blog where you can read about women's health in general. So you can read if natural cycles is for you, because indeed, like when it comes to contraception, there's no one size fits all. And we also have a quiz if natural cycles might be for you. But indeed, then you sign up. We just launched actually a collaboration with a wearable called the Oura ring. So you can choose if you want to measure your temperature in the mouth when you wake up in the morning, or if you want to measure your temperature on the skin while sleeping using the Oura ring, which is also a sleep and activity tracker. It's a very nice experience because then you will never forget to measure in the morning because you just wear the ring and it's quite smooth.
That is incredible. I didn't know that combination of technology existed. That's wonderful.
Yeah, we just launched it a month ago. We got the extra FDA clearance last summer, and now we just launched it, which is very exciting. And we see that the users really love this experience. But either way, whether you measure in the mouth or you measure on the skin, you get your temperature into the Natural Cycles app, and then the algorithm runs in the background and gives you a red day if you are fertile or might be fertile that day, or a green day if you're not fertile. If you're using the app to plan a pregnancy, you get kind of like a scale of fertility to see, like, to pinpoint really when are your most fertile days. And then you have to also input when your period is. When you sign up, it asks you if you were recently pregnant or recently on hormonal birth control. And then the algorithm will take that into account, since it can take a while for your body to start ovulating again after being on hormones, for instance.
Yeah. And it really depends on the type of hormones you're on too. Some can take much longer than other ones. And so it's important to get that information, and so grateful that your algorithm takes that into account. I love that it's connected with the Oura ring. I've been doing it by temperature or by orally for years and years. But I have an Oura ring, and I'm just super excited to pair that. I guess
you do. You should definitely pair them.
I'm so excited. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I just love the ease of the interface. It's so easy to understand, so easy to use. I know that lots of women are using it already, but I just wanted to speak into the ease of it. And it's not complicated at all. And that's why I wanted you to speak into it of just the ease of getting started, how you start to have that information pretty quickly, and it worked for you without having to use hormones, especially if you've used synthetic hormones in the past and a hormonal birth control pill, a combination pill, or maybe you've used an IUD, whatever it may be, and it just didn't work for you. This is such a great, incredible, simple alternative to use that works extremely effectively.
Yes, and I should add that you can trust your green days from the first cycle, but you might get more red days in the first couple of cycles until the app and the algorithm has gotten to know your unique cycle. Because we know from our research that every woman is different, every cycle is different. So the algorithm has to get to know you, and therefore you will get more red days in the beginning until it detects your ovulation and starts to see your temperature pattern.
Okay, great. That was definitely what happened with me, is you just have more days where, as the algorithm is getting more adjusted to you, just to keep you in that safe zone, which I know brings a lot of reassurance to people who, especially, women who are wanting to get pregnant soon, but just not ready yet, or maybe a family who wants to wait a little while to have more family members. I just love that. Or someone who's like myself. I had a toddler. He's adorable. He's 20 months old, and he's my one and only. So I'm done. So it's good. It's good to have an app that can tell me what's going on there. Elina, anything else you want to share with us before I'm so excited to let people know where to go? I know we want to take them to the website, naturalcycles.com, so they can learn more. Anything else you would love to share?
Well, I can share that you have a discount code, Dr. Mariza, that gives 20% off an annual subscription. So that's exciting if you guys want to try out Natural Cycles for a year.
Thank you so much. It's such a great, wonderful gift to my people, to my ladies. So, and if you're listening right now, you go to naturalcycles.com, you use the code Dr. Mariza, you get 20% off. And this is what's so great. Like, I think you're hearing about this right now. If it's the first time you've heard about it, I remember when I heard about Natural Cycles for the first time, I jumped for joy because I just know how many women are looking for a solution like this. I know myself, I'm using it. So it's been the most perfect thing. And so if there's someone in your life who has been struggling with hormonal birth control or is trying to figure out a contraception that's going to work for them, or you've got someone in their 20s or in their teen years that are looking for something that is just easy to use, again, 18 and older, this is going to be such a great recommendation, such a great method to use. And again, not only send them the website, but send them the code link just in case. So I'm a big fan of, when we find and we learn about something epic that can literally change our lives, we should let everybody know. We should definitely shout it from the rooftops. And when I read up on this, I was like, this is just incredible. Almost too good to be true, but it is real. It's a real thing. And it just shows that we are moving in the right direction for women's health and, for supporting women in a really natural and beautiful way. Well, it's such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for making time for me today and for us on the show. And again, I am so excited. It's going to be in my email. We'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes. And again, Elina, honey, just brilliant. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful to be here today.
Mm-hmm.